Hello, friends. This is Sam Cheney reporting for Weaponized News. Today, September 18th, 2023. As always, information overload out there in the news. But today, we're going to do some local reporting with Nick Richardson, candidate for Fresno City Council. Before we get to him, please support Weaponized News. Go to weaponizednews.com/shop. Help us out, get some stickers. The classic white background sticker, the holograph sticker, and the clear background sticker. Put it on your laptop, your guitar, your bumper. Help spread the word about the First Amendment, Second Amendment, all of our inalienable natural rights that are under attack now. Has never been a better time to start up that very important conversation with your friends, family, and neighbors about what this country's all about and where it's going into the future. Without further ado, we have Nick Richardson on the line, candidate for Fresno City Council District 6. How you doing today, Nick?
Doing well. Good to be here, Sam.
Thank you for coming on Weaponized News. I see you are out there really, you are doing all the door knocking. You are walking the districts. You are putting in the work out there. And thankfully, it's cooled down a little bit, but you're out there in 100-degree weather, beating the pavement. And so, what has that experience been like actually talking to the community? How do people react when you knock on their door campaigning? How's it been for you so far?
Tell you what, it's been overwhelmingly positive. People were coming up and talking to. I know this district. I know the communities here. It's the district I was born and raised in. These people, they haven't changed in the last 20 years. They still value the same things. They still take part in the same communities, whether it's through their school, their church, or whatever else. And it's the only surprise has just been, I guess, how reassuring and how encouraging it's been talking to these individuals and hearing that the things that they're concerned about are the things that I'm concerned about. So it's been a lot of handshakes, a lot of smiles, a lot of slaps on the back, people kind of raising their hands and reaching out to me and my team to see what they can do and who can host a yard sign and how they can get involved. It's been overwhelming positively.
Why do you want to work for the government?
Well, I've been working for the government since 2013. May 15th, 2013, I took an oath, a commission as a second lieutenant in the Marine Corps. So I've been serving the country and in one way or another working for the government ever since then on a very vague level. Now, as of October, I made the choice to get out of the active duty component and move home, join the reserves. So now once a month I go down and I blow things up and do the Marine thing. But that gives me the rest of the time here to come home and serve specifically, as opposed to just seeing a picture or seeing an American flag hanging in a house or my mom's license plate that has a Marine Corps reference on it. People can actually see me and bring up the issues that they have locally. And there's no better way to serve people than as close as you can on that local level, as far as I'm concerned.
I think I know you are running for my mother's district where she lives in District 6. You probably will go by her house there. What are you hearing from the people? What is the issue or issues that they're most concerned with in District 6?
So there are specific issues here and there. People are concerned with homelessness on the rise. They're concerned with the rise of petty crime, violent crimes as well, and the inability of our city as a whole to react to that. Namely, because of our fire and police, our sheriff's department are just so horribly underfunded. But overarching, regardless of what the specific issue is that people are concerned about, whether it's schools, public services, drugs, they're kind of disenchanted overall with the level of disaffectedness almost. They feel like their local government, their state government, and their federal government have kind of gone on their own path, regardless of what the individual needs, what the voter or the taxpayer feels. They've kind of become inaccessible, right? It's become way more about dollar signs and big dollar donors and special interests as opposed to what government should be, which is service to the people, provided by the people, from the people. And they're seeing that. And honestly, that crosses party lines. I'm hearing that from independents and moderates and Republicans and kind of everywhere in between.
People want a government that actually works for them instead of for themselves. That's
I mean, go figure, right? They want city council that instead of acting like celebrities, acts like what they are. They're neighbors. They're neighbors of the individuals who they're in that position to serve.
some of this corruption coming out of Fresno City Hall is just it's mind blowing. I don't know if you saw last week. I think it was being reported that Fresno City government with tax money is paying Granite Park like over almost $500,000 electricity bill. Did you see that?
Correct. Yeah, going to centered around Club One, if I'm not mistaken, which is another one of the gambling clubs that's moved and opened a second location in Granite Park.
That's crazy. That why would the city use taxpayer money to basically bail out this, and then there's to bail out this private private industry, and then there's all these crazy ties with the council and the developers, and it's just a giant. For those not in Fresno, it's a giant scandal that's gone on for years and years and years, and there's blackmail, corruption, payoffs, all this kind of crazy stuff coming out of this, and for little old Fresno. It's pretty ridiculous at this point, and like I said, this most recent uh, we learned like last week that they paid like almost a $500,000 electric bill, PG&E bill for these guys to bail them out one more time, and it's just like what is going on at Fresno City Hall? And like you say, disaffected. Yeah, it's like I watch these meetings are hard to watch, and so I watch them sometimes, and it's like people go up there, voice their grievances, use their First Amendment right, and the government basically just ignores them. Like just put your fingers in your ears and just like, I mean, it's very. I don't even know. I don't know what the word is for it, but it's the government doesn't care. These people supposedly representing uh, the people, their constituency, they literally could care less. It's like it's an exercise in futility to even go there and try to redress your grievances to them at these meetings. It's just like it's all just going through the motions. And so, do you feel that same way? Are you seeing that same type of attitude from government that I am?
100%, Sam. And honestly, what it boils down to, it's poor leadership. I mean, anyone who's been through any leadership training of a company or an organization or a government entity or a military unit can tell you that you need to be accessible as a leader. You need to have stances and principles that you stand to. You need to have standards that you hold yourself to, that you can hold others to as well. And when that's not shown, it's you're not pulling the wool over anybody's eyes. Two of the things that have only been brought up to me a few times in walking these districts. And yesterday we contacted our 10,000th house. So we are hearing from people. And
That's pretty good. You're putting in the work. You knocked on 10,000 doors already, huh?
none of my competitors are anywhere close to that. I'd be surprised if they had 1,000. But one of the, access to government, like you mentioned, is so important. Whether that's through the candidate, through being able to voice your opinion, or just feeling like the government's representing you. I mean, two good examples. You brought up a phenomenal one. City Council meets every other Thursday or so, and they have the open meetings, their general meetings, and the public is allowed. And I'm going. I'm going to those. I'm doing my homework, and I'm seeing what concerns people have, but I'm also seeing what City Council does. What's their demeanor, right? What's their approach to these meetings? And during this portion, you have an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours or so of public comment where individuals can fill out a form. Hey, here's my name, here's my concern, here's where I'm from. And they get to go up and they get to speak to those who are behind the dais. And during this yes, there are a lot of things that are repeated. I get that. They hear the homeless community isn't being taken care of, and they have every week or every session, the homeless coalition in the area sends representatives to go say this. But during this period, right, again, every other week, about an hour, 2 hours or so, all City Council does, all you would expect those members to do, is just listen to the constituents' concerns. They don't do a lot of speaking back and forth. It's not a dialogue, but the individual gets to come. They get their full time to express their concerns. And during this, you see City Council members on their phone. They use this as their bathroom break. They go, slap shoulders with their friend 3 seats down. And you and I don't have to know anything about government to know that not only is that irresponsible, it doesn't help you do your job well, and it's just disrespectful at the end of the day. It's disheartening to the people who gather the gumption, they gather the courage to come all the way to City Hall, voice their complaint they're obviously passionate about, and what do they get in return? They get one individual looking at them, two of them on their phones, three of them in the bathroom, and they feel like their complaints are falling on deaf ears because there are. Now let's talk about deaf ears also, right? Didn't mean to make the interplay there, but it works out perfectly. At City Hall, right, you have the ability to get a translator, an interpreter for Hmong, for Punjabi, for Spanish, for a language that isn't spoken by the council, and they get an interpreter who comes in there and interprets. Well, any individual from any of those backgrounds or nationalities or ethnicities or foreign lands, they come to the United States, they have the opportunity to learn English. Now, learning a foreign language is a hard thing to do. I'm not discounting that. I've made a lot of my time in the Marine Corps, a lot of my impact through speaking foreign languages. I was a pretty good helicopter pilot, but I'm a damn good translator. Now, individuals in our community who are deaf or hard of hearing have none of those services. They have no interpreter, right? Those individuals didn't choose to be deaf or hard of hearing, right? That's the lot that life has given them. But there's no permanent sign language interpreter on city council, right, or in city hall at all. There's no closed captioning for the meetings. There's not even a 90% solution speak to text option for the discussions going on. None of that. And it shows that city council strictly does not care if that is your disability. It's shameful. And I don't have a lot of deaf or hard of hearing members in my family, but just again, as a leader, that should tell you that you're not reaching out, you're not providing access to government to those people.
I thought they're all liberals that constantly preach about how they care about the most vulnerable people in our population.
And equality and making things accessible and reaching these groups. Yeah, talking the talk is one thing, but walking the walk is another. And apparently it's going to take a Republican getting in there and looking at who has access to civil government and providing that and extending that arm to people. But this is also something that reaches across party lines. It's just being a good leader. That's all it is. I could listen to 2 hours of people complaining to me about how much they hate my hairdo and how much they will never vote for me and how much I stink when I walk in the room, but I'm listening to them. I will listen, and that's something they're going to see when they see me fill in that District 6 seat on city council behind the dais. And the minute that they make me the city council president, which it rotates every year, I'm going to demand that sort of attention and respect from all the city council members to the people who have come there, not paid like the people behind the dais are, but those who decided to take time off work or transport themselves at their own cost to go take part in government.
It's shameful. I don't know if you saw this story, another shameful story. Fresno, this is the Fresno Bee, where I'm reading this story from. Fresno raises Mexico's flag at City Hall, celebrates immigrants' contributions to the region. Do we really need to be raising foreign countries' flags at our City Hall? I have no problem honoring immigrants' contributions to our region, but do we have to raise their flag at City Hall?
You know, I was asked the same question by the California Parents Union, and they said, well, which flag should you be able to hang at at a school? Well, I'm not running for school board, but the way I believe, geographical flags celebrating where in space that building and that entity, that government exists, that's great. I think you should fly the flag with the seal of Fresno. I think you should be able to fly the California flag. You should be able to fly the flag of that high school or the district if they have one. No flag should fly above the American flag on United States territory, period. I mean, period, end of story. As a Marine, I love the flag of the Marine Corps. It's a good looking flag. It's got the eagle, globe, and anchor. It's got that beautiful maroon color. But I would throw an absolute fit if someone decided to hang that over the American flag. I've had too many friends come home in coffins with that American flag draped over it to watch it be besmirched, hanging astride or below any other flag. So no, this is not Mexican territory. This is not Filipino territory. This is not Canadian territory. This is American territory. This is the land that Americans come from to go fight and defend America. That is the flag that needs to be hanging above, not the flag of an ideology or a foreign country or an interest group, but the flag of the country it represents.
I don't know if it's above, but I mean, to me, you raise that another country's flag, it's like they conquered you. It's like, what are you guys doing? This
That
is
is when a flag is
insane,
hung. That is when a flag
right?
is hung over a government building.
Right? It's insane to me, but we just have to put up with anything, I guess. Or I'll say I'm racist, and I'll say you guys are crazy because this is not appropriate. We can hold ceremonies, thank all the migrants for all their contributions, no problem with that. But actually raising their flag up, I mean, it's to me it's ridiculous. And so that's a segue into I had a couple questions. Uh, the rainbow flag, right? And people want to know, where are you for or against or neutral on gay marriage?
Honestly, on gay marriage, if it's two consenting adults and they want to do their own thing, okay. I honestly don't have an issue with it. With the flag, that American flag represents to me every gay or white or black or straight or Muslim or whatever American decided to lay their life down and spend their life in service of that flag. That's what the American flag means to me. I don't need a separate flag to celebrate homosexuality or a separate flag to celebrate just black Americans. That flag stands for all of them. Now, in their own private lives, if they want to, because you don't like something doesn't mean it's going to go away. And because you make something illegal also doesn't mean it's going to go away. So consenting adults, that's fine. My issue is when that starts having an effect on children. When those things start being spread to children or they take that to schools to recruit, that's when I have an issue with it. That's an ideology that should not be pushed on children. In fact, no ideology of that nature should be pushed on children at any point.
They're doing it big time right now. I think there's a couple meeting. There's a meeting at Clovis School District tomorrow. I think sometime this week. Anyway, there's a about the pushing of the LGBTQI plus QIA. I lose track of all the acronyms now, but pushing that agenda on the children, and there's a big meeting about it, and it's being reported that these activist groups are going to bus in a bunch of people from out of town that literally don't live here, don't know anybody here, have no business being here, to fill up time at the school board meeting so they can filibuster the public speaking time and not let parents who actually have children in the district get a word in. And so it's this type of behavior that we continue to see from that block that's extremely disturbing. So, what are your thoughts on should that be allowed to bus in activists from out of town? I think I saw they were planning on busing in activists from San Diego to come speak at a Clovis school board meeting. Do you think that's appropriate?
I think the individuals taking place at these meetings, be it city council or a school board or whatever else, should have a vested interest and a stake in that particular community. If you're not, if you're from Fresno Unified and you want to come over to the Selma Unified or the Clovis Unified meeting just to raise a stink, I think you're kind of out over your skis at that point. Now, one of the easy ways to do this that I've seen done is instead of each individual getting a certain amount of time, you compound that with each topic getting a certain amount of time. At city hall meetings, for example, if they came in and every single person wanted to get up and say the exact thing about streetlights on Cedar and Herndon, and you never got to talk about any of the homelessness issue or how drugs are affecting them or a severe issue that they found in the response times of a certain city service, none of those things would be talked about. Now, don't get me wrong, a lot of the city council members wouldn't care because they're not listening anyway, but topic by topic is a much better and a much more responsible way of curtailing the conversations to be productive.
They're not listening anyway. Isn't that the truth? So, okay, a listener had one more question for you. They want to know, where are you at on abortion? Are you pro-life? Are you pro-abortion?
Pro-life or pro-abortion? Pro-abortion. Wow.
Yeah.
So kind of conflicting thoughts here. One thought is a traditional conservative, Republican, small government, like libertarian mindset, right? Which is governance at the highest level should only be done when necessary. When absolutely possible, governance should be pushed down to the lowest level. It should be given to the state. And if it can be done smaller than the state, it should be given to the county. And if smaller than that, to the city. And if smaller than that, to the individual family, right? If they made gun rights that way, individuals will be able to make their own decisions in their own homes about whether gun ownership is right for them and what type they needed. Or you can have the federal government come and make a sweeping mandate one way or the other. Now, I think the late term abortions, and again, as an individual who's never going to have to personally go through this, you're going to hear many different stories about this. But I think a late term abortion is one of the ugliest things in human existence, right? You can call it a crime against defenseless.
You're
Now,
talking
does that,
up to actually a day before birth, huh?
sure. Well, I mean, you've had some politicians say, or right there after birth.
Or 3 months, and there's been bioethicists in the past that have proposed up to 3 years old or until the child is self-aware to actually be called a late term abortion. So I call that murder, but that's what some of these bioethicists have suggested.
Don't get me wrong, my brother is 16, and he's pissed me off more than one time in my life where I said, "Man, I wish I could take you out right now," but I don't because I love him. But he turns 18 in a few months, so it's not an issue. But how far does that extend? Does that extend to the morning after pill? Does that extend to fertilization? Does it once we come to a place where we can decide that, then we need to determine what level that decision needs to be made. I do not want Joe Biden and Kamala Harris or the Democratic run, either House or Senate, coming up with the rules that dictate life in the entire country. Similarly, I don't think that having individuals who are further right than you or me making these decisions on Supreme Court or in the Senate or whatever else. I think it's something that you put realistic expectations on the front and back side. You get to the left of it as quickly as possible. You make contraception, you make morning after pill available to people. You're going to save these decisions from having to be made because we both know there are individuals who don't care about the decision and they'll make whatever is convenient for them at whatever point they see fit. And the later that goes on, unfortunately, just the more drastic and the more violent and terrible it is. I understand that's not a simple answer, but it's also not a simple question. It's not a simple when it comes to mixing biology and ethics and law and how much the government should be making rules about you. It is a very complex problem. It's similar to homelessness in that there is the humanity side of it, there is the practicality side of it, and there's how much do you really want government involved with that.
That's a good segue to where you at with this the health department handing out needles to junkies in the park. To me, I'd say 15 years ago, 20 years ago, when I worked in public health, I thought I had a more liberal mindset, you could say, as everyone there did. And they said, well, we have to give these junkies these clean needles or they're going to use dirty needles. And then they're going to, get diseases and they're going to get abscess and all this type of stuff. So they need clean, dope needles. Now, we've seen after over 20 years, probably this program's been going on where they hand out free hypodermic needles at the park. There's just junkies everywhere. And so to me, the program has failed. And the solution is not to help these drug addicts with their addiction. Where are you at with free needles at the park program that is carried out every so often here? I think it's every couple weeks.
Sam, do you believe addiction is a disease?
Do I believe addiction is a disease? I don't know. I don't know if I.
Mental, physically, or otherwise?
Some of
I
it,
do.
some of it
So I
is
do.
physically addicting. Yeah, opiates are physically addicting for sure, and
So
mentally.
I totally believe it is a disease. And at this point, all they're doing by providing these needles, well, there are a few things that go into this. And I will also caveat it with the fact that I'm running for a city position. The county is the one who made this decision and then got the resources from the state.
No, I
I'm not sure
understand
if that's
it's
because you can get
under the county, but you could speak out against it. You could. There's a lot of things as a
absolutely.
city councilman that you could do, but anyway, back to what you're saying.
Yes. So I absolutely have my opinions. I did want to caveat it with the county and the state.
Yeah, I understand
Um,
that.
so one thing they did wrong is you're essentially trading one disease for another. Okay, they won't get hepatitis now, but now you're going to deepen their addiction to whatever they're injecting, opioids, or
Speed.
something potentially worse, right? Something laced with fentanyl, whatever it may be.
I think
Secondly,
the
this
majority are using some type of opiates because these people are like zombies, man. They're whacked out of their mind.
yes, heroin remains prevalent, absolutely. The second thing they're doing is, in addition to the needles and trading that one disease for another, right? The addiction for the hepatitis or what have you, they're also handing out crack pipes. So not something intravenous, which you could argue from a medical standpoint has a reason, right? It has a reason to be concerned or to raise concern, because intravenous needle use for anything, whether it's tattoos or insulin injections or whatever, carries the risk once you penetrate that blood-skin barrier. But now they're handing out pipes as well, to have a clean pipe, I suppose, to smoke meth out of or what have you. And at that point, you've kind of breached that, hey, we're here to prevent these specific intravenous communicable diseases for, hey, while you're getting paraphernalia, here's a state of California lanyard and a keychain and also a crack pipe for you, which blows my mind, right? You're not performing a public service and keeping dirty needles, not only from these individuals using it, but also off the streets where your children are walking. You're now giving them new material that they can improvise and smoke the drugs in whatever method they prefer. So that's the second way they messed up. And the third thing I think that is wrong with the current approach to it is where they decided to hold this needle exchange. All right. Is it a mystery that parks attract homeless populations? No. Anybody who's lived in any city over 100,000 people can tell you that. However, where the homelessness problem is centered is downtown Fresno. Why? One, they have free access to food, right? The Poverello House, they have the Fresno Rescue Mission. If they want to go get a free meal, they can. And a lot of individuals who aren't addicted to drugs, who are down on their luck, who are disabled, who are veterans, who are whatever, right? They do use that resource. Now, if I can go get that free resource and then go sit on the street, maybe commit some crimes, maybe turn some tricks, get enough money for my next hit, where if you're a drug dealer, if you and I are thinking like we'll put our drug dealer hat on for a second. If we're thinking like a drug dealer, where are we going to go to sell the most drugs?
Well, I'm the market is obviously where your customers are.
Absolutely.
And so they basically created a market there for and I don't know if you saw this in the last couple minutes we got here. California bill decriminalizing psychedelics is heading to Newsom's desk. So like if we didn't have enough drug problems, now psychedelic drugs are going to be decriminalized here in California.
Now, controversial point here. I don't mind that. And here's why.
Everything's collapsing here. Have some mushrooms.
Well, yeah, here's why. I mean, don't get me wrong. I oftentimes go out and look at things outside and come back and have a beer because it's a lot to look at. But here's why. Our problem is not with drug use itself. Our problem is with drug addiction that drives people into the dregs of society. Our problem is not an individual using drugs in their home, but being prescribed opiates, getting addicted to them, and finding themselves doing whatever they have to do to continue that, right? Or driving themselves to a point where financially they can't support it, becoming homeless, and adding crime, mental health issues to that concoction of their addiction. That is why drugs are a problem. Not because drugs are bad, because the effects that drugs have on society through the users and through the addicts of those becomes bad. Now, where that differs from my stance on, say, marijuana or psychedelics, is that those have almost no addictive properties that lead people to spend all of their money.
Nobody's doing robberies for marijuana or mushrooms.
No one's smoking a joint and then going and eating somebody's face off downtown. That's not happening with things like that, right? People aren't getting prescribed by their doctor something that is comparable to mushrooms. Then they can't find it. Then they have to go hold up a mushroom store to go find it. Psilocybin, the active ingredient in psychedelic mushrooms, has been proven by multiple agencies and schools, in addition to private medical trials, to lessen the effects of PTSD. Now, someone coming from the military, that is very close to my heart. If one of the individuals I served with can either prescribe themselves a very natural remedy, psilocybin, that is impossible to overdose on and will not drive them into a physically driven addiction to combat the demons living in their minds from their service to our country, or they can go to a psychiatrist in town, get prescribed perfectly legal opiates, and become addicted to those, adding to their problems. I'm gonna aim for the mushrooms every time. I would recommend those every time to someone. A natural, non-addictive, prescription for them that's going to lessen the effects of their PTSD, bring them back into society to compete and win, and help us drive our economy in a productive, not destructive manner like those other drugs.
That's fair points that you're making. Okay, in our last, we're at 30 minutes here. Give us your final thoughts before we wrap up this broadcast, and we'd like to have you back on again as the campaign progresses. How do people vote? What are the deadlines? All that good stuff.
I'll tell you right now, early December is the final the entry deadline. So there were 5 in the race right now, or about a month ago. There are 4 now. One has dropped out. That may even descend to 2 or 3. Primary, all right. So December will be the filing deadline. Who knows? Elon Musk may decide he wants to move to Fresno and for City Council in District 6. Early December, that shuts off. We have from December until March. March 5th, Super Tuesday, will be the primary vote. Fresno runs a jungle primary. Anybody from any party can vote for any member of the race, any of those candidates, to extend on to the general election. If no one wins over half, we go to the general election in November. So you better believe we're going to be walking these streets. Phase 2 starts in about 3 weeks. We're going to be getting the word out there, even more than we already have, looking for March 5th. If it goes on to a general election, then myself and whatever schmuck is with me, we'll be going to November and campaigning even more over the summer. If you'd like to get involved, the website's right there on the bottom. You can look up Nick Richardson for District 6 on Facebook, and we'd love to have anybody who values keeping at least a conservative and at least one veteran on City Council, because this next term, Gary Bredefeld leaves, and no one's going to speak for either of those groups.
Geez, maybe you can clean up some of the corruption. It's wild over there at Fresno City Hall. For those that don't know, our little Fresno, it seems like it's just constantly mired in scandal. Hopefully, you can clean it up there, Nick. We really appreciate your time tonight. Everybody go to nicksgotmy6.com. Check out his campaign. Everybody do your own research. As always, push that like, share, subscribe, notification button. Peace, love, and liberty.